Welcome to One Woman. I'm your host, Sharla Brown, and on today's show, well, I have a local Thunder Bay celebrity, not just Thunder Bay, but all over the place, where Joanne Waytowich has traveled as Ivanka. So welcome to the show, Joanne.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's start with Joanne as kind of a little girl, because a lot of people who are going to be watching this know you as Ivanka, has seen you in productions, whether it's through Magnus or all these great things. And were you that kind of little girl? Did you have this wild imagination? Did you love performing right from the get-go?
Right from the get-go.
Yeah?
Right from the get-go. I was born in a little farming community in Manitoba, Oakburn, population, 2 grain elevators and a dog, probably less now. And I was raised pretty much as an only child on the farm. My brother was 10 years older than I, so he went away to university, and I was on the farm by myself with my parents. And my mom says, she tells me that from the age of 2, as soon as I could talk, she would teach me nursery rhymes, and she would take me to stores and put me on the counter at the store, and I would say nursery rhymes to whoever would listen, and I would stand up on the counter, and that would be my stage, and I would say these nursery rhymes or tell little kids stories. So from very early, I knew that I had this thing for talking in front of people. And when I was I'm going to say 5, my mom took me to see The Sound of Music with Julie Andrews. And from that day on, I wanted to be Julie Andrews. I wanted to sing like Julie Andrews, "The hills are alive." And I would go home to the farm, and I would crawl up on top of the haystacks, and I would sing the entire, because she'd bought me the record by this point.
Love it.
And I knew every song and every word, and I would sing to the cattle as they were munching on their hay. And
Dinner theater.
Dinner theater. That's right. This is farm dinner theater. That's exact. I was doing dinner theater when I was 5.
Awesome.
So I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be in performance. And I wrote my first play when I was probably in grade 6.
Wow.
And my mom used to read me these stories that were Baba Yaga, based on the folk stories of Baba Yaga. And Baba Yaga was a witch who lived in a house that was built on chicken legs. And if Baba Yaga wanted to see a different view, the chicken legs would stand her house up, and the house would fling around, and she'd be facing that way, and she'd have a different view. And my mom used to read me these stories all the time when I was a child. And in the 6th grade in Oakburn, Manitoba, there were 6 girls in our grade 6 class. And I don't know how I knew to do this. I don't think I'd ever even seen a play, but I wrote one, complete with music, all these different songs. And at recess, I would teach all these 5 other girls the songs in this play. And I don't remember what the play was about, but I'm sure probably Baba Yaga or similar. And I would teach these girls at recess these songs. And it was at that point that I realized that not everybody could sing. And up until then, I thought that because it happened in my family, you opened your mouth, you sang. And I'm trying to teach these girls these songs, and none of the other ones could sing, not one of them. And I was flabbergasted by this. I'd be teaching them a little tune, and I'd say, it goes like this, da 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 da, and they would go, da 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 da. And I'd say, no, that's wrong. Didn't you hear it? Da, da, da. And they couldn't sing. So that was when I first realized that people didn't naturally do what I naturally did. Mm-hmm. So that was sort of the basis of the whole thing. And I started to, when I went on to high school, I started to be in their musicals, high school musicals, and just continued to develop that appreciation for theater, music, performance, which I have never lost.
Right. And was that something that your parents always nurtured as well and supported you? And nobody wants their child to be an actor, performer on the stage.
No.
Yeah, it's a tough one sometimes for parents.
My mom says, I still remember I was 18. By this time we'd moved to Brandon, Manitoba. I was 17, just graduating from high school, 17, 18. And the pressure, to get a job, to do something, to make money, to have a pension, the pressure was very, as it is for, I'm sure most kids maybe today is different, but back then the whole focus was to get a job, get a good job, get a career, get a pension. And I said to her at that time, to my parents both, I want to go to theater school. I want to study music. That's what I really know that I am good at. And don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. You are going to go to school and get a job. So I moved to Thunder Bay in 1976, and I took a class at a course at Confederation College that was then called Mental Retardation Counselor. Today, the same program is called Developmental Services Worker, and I took that 2-year program. And I set out to work in the human services field, and that's the course that my parents sort of insisted that I go.
Right.
So
and
I did.
I think that was so common. And even to this day, parents are just, I think, protective. And it's like they just want their child to succeed. And they have their own kind of viewpoints and fears of themselves in terms of like, pushing people to, the people that with the best intentions, but also, snuffing out maybe your dreams of what you really wanted to do. So how did you keep that path going of theater? And were you able to do that once you went to college?
Good question. I was very unhappy working in human services. Not that I didn't like working with people. I did, but I wasn't in the right skin, I wasn't in the right skin for me. And while I like a lot of different things, while, I'm human, all of us have different things that we are good at and not good at. I liked working with people, but it wasn't my passion. And I would move from job to job to job. I worked many places. I taught at the college for a while. I worked at the Canadian Mental Health Association. I worked for Lakehead Association for Community Living. I worked at many different places. And I would stay maybe a year, and I would start to get antsy, I suppose is the word. And I'd say, if I just worked there, it would be better. So I would work there. And after a year, I'd say, I don't like this either. If I just worked there, maybe it would be better. And I kept going from place to place to place, never being able to really settle or be happy. And it wasn't until probably 1987 or so that I was working for the Canadian Mental Health Association, and I realized that I was crashing and burning. I just wasn't happy. And through a whole set of circumstances, stopped that job, stopped working there, and was able to go back to school and study music. And in the meantime, I had gone to, I was singing with the Lakehead Choral Group at that time too, and they did musicals, and I had been cast as like roles of Gladys Hotchkiss, for example, in Pajama Game, which was a really good role. I was Yenta the Matchmaker in Fiddler on the Roof. So I had little community theater experiences that just reinforced to me that that is exactly what my passion was. So in 1987, I stopped working in the human services and went back to school to study music. And I went to Lakehead University and studied, I took a fine arts degree in music, majoring in voice.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take a quick break, but we're going to be right back with our next segment and talk with Joanne more about her life journey. Welcome back to One Woman. I'm your host, Sharla Brown, and on today's show, we've been chatting with Joanne Waytowich all about her awesome life and her background in theater, and just a talented woman, and I'm so happy to have you on the show today, Joanne.
Thank you.
So when we left off with the last segment, we were talking about kind of that career change, and so what was that like now being a little later in life, going back to school? Was that something you were excited about or a little bit nervous, or how did it go?
Excited and terrified. Kids in 18 or 19 go to university. When you're in your 30s or 40s or older, to decide to go back to university, there's this whole this whole fear of, oh, I don't know, do I have any brain cells left? Can I learn? Can I do this? Am I up to this task? And I went back to school to study music at age 30, which is not very many people choose music at age 30, especially singing. So I was pretty terrified. I had never taken a singing lesson in my life. I was going into this totally blind, and thank goodness they accepted me into that program. I don't think I would have gotten into a program like Berkeley or places in Southern Ontario that have big music schools. But because we're in Thunder Bay and it's a smaller school, they're more welcoming. So I was granted admission into the music program, and I went through the 4 years of the music program majoring in voice, and at year 3 I took the arts administration program at the college at the same time. So I did 6 years, the 2-year college program and the 4-year music program at the same time, and I finished those in 5. I don't recommend it.
Oh, wow.
It was really,
Hard.
really crazy.
I can't even imagine.
I was carrying a full load at university and 11 classes at college simultaneously. It was crazy. And in the summer when I wasn't going to university, I was doing my field placements for college. So I did one at Old Fort William in the special events department, and I did my second placement at the Edmonton Opera.
Wow.
So I had really good experience. Anyway, at the end of my 4 years at Lakehead University in the music program, the big project that has to be done in order to graduate is an honors project. And so I worked with Kim Erickson to develop a play featuring the character of Ivanka. And this play we called I Can Sing, Can't I? And it was Ivanka's take on different forms of music that I had learned in the 4 years, because you have to do something around music, of course, with your honors project.
Right.
So I would Ivanka-size the art song, opera, oratorio, folk song. So things that I had learned, I would Ivanka-size them. So it's almost like fractured fairy tales. You remember Bullwinkle, Rocky and Bullwinkle?
Yes.
They would have fractured fairy tales. Well, that's what Ivanka did to music in that play. So she'd take opera, and she had one opera by Henry Purcell, Dido and Aeneas is the name of the opera. But in Ivanka's language, it's Dido and Aeneas. So she would take an aria, which she would call an aria. She would talk about aria from Dido and Aeneas, and she would say, all these people are killing themselves or killing somebody else in the opera, rivers of blood running everywhere, so I'm going to sing for you the Die aria from Dido and Aeneas. And for your viewing pleasure, I will do myself in. And so I would kill myself as I sang this aria, and that was my honors project.
Wow.
And about 30 people saw my honors project, and Marcella Smithers was accompanying me at that time, and so many people said, we want to show our friends this. So we went and took my little honors project to St. Paul's United Church, and we flung the doors open, and we did it for whoever wanted to go, and we took up a silver collection and donated it somewhere. And those people, those 100 people, wanted to see it, and they wanted to bring their friends, so we flung the doors open again, and 200 people came, and more and more people wanted to see it, and I thought, geez, maybe I'm onto something. So I called Mario Crudo from Magnus Theatre, who was the artistic director at that point, and I invited him to see it, and then I had a meeting with him after to discuss the possibilities of doing something with it. And he said, at that time, he said, it's a really funny thing. It's really great. It's original. It's creative. I have nowhere to put it. It's not a play. It's not a musical. It's not stand-up. It's not improv. It looks like it's come from the Fringe Festival. There's no place to put it in our theater. Thanks, goodbye. So I did, at that moment, after I'd graduated, what a lot of people with a music degree did. I got a job at the AIDS Committee of Thunder Bay.
Right.
Went back to, the helping profession. What do you do with a music degree? And I worked there for 2 years, and out of the blue, Mario Crudo from Magnus Theatre phoned me. By this time it was 1997, and he said, I'm going to program your little honors project in our 25th year season. It will hold us in good stead to have some community members' work featured in our 25th year. Don't get excited, he said. I'm putting you in the January slot. The snowbirds are gone. The theater's going to be empty. It's 40 below. Don't get excited. Don't get excited. Are you kidding me? I was over the moon. I was beside myself. So I took vacation to make it happen. And my little play outsold everything that had ever been done in the history of Magnus Theatre.
Wow.
And from that moment on, Mario was shoving a pen in my hand. Write something, write something, write something, write something. So I wrote my next play, Ivanka Delivers the Goods, and was still working at the AIDS Committee. And this was a couple of years past. We toured. I took holidays. We toured my first play. I wrote my second play. I took holidays, more holidays. And we were doing another run in the summer of my second show, Ivanka Delivers the Goods. And it was my 40th birthday.
Wow.
And I was working at the AIDS Committee. It was my 40th birthday. And I was standing on the stage to another sold-out audience that was leaping to their feet at the end of my workday. And I remember this so clearly. Mario came with flowers because it was my birthday. And he presented me with flowers, and I was just overcome at that particular moment thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing? Why am I so afraid to let go of that is not, it chokes me up just thinking about it now. Why am I so afraid to let go of that is not representative of my soul? Why am I so afraid of that? To let go of that and reach for what is truly, truly me. And at that moment, I went home that night and I laid it out to my husband. I said, I really feel like I need to stop doing social work jobs and go for it. And he said, I'll support you. Whatever it is you need, you can do that for a year. You can quit your job, do it for a year. You can always find another job. What's a job?
Right.
Go work at McDonald's. What's a job? If you're not happy where you are, do something else. So I stopped at that time. I stopped working and just did solely theater. And that was in 97, I guess. It's a blur now. So for the past 20-something years, I have been writing. I've written 5 full-length musicals. Diane Potts and I have co-written all of the music for all of my shows. We've toured extensively. We've been in theaters all across Canada. We have toured into every province except Quebec. I haven't been to Nunavut either.
Right.
So I've had an awesome run with the character of Ivanka and those shows.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take another quick break, but we're going to be right back with Joanne. Welcome back to One Woman. I'm your host, Sharla Brown, and if you're just tuning in, I've been chatting today with Joanne Waytowich, talented, amazing woman, actress, playwriter, director. You do it all, Joanne. Absolutely amazing. So I'm curious as to where did Ivanka come from? Because she's a one-in-a-kind character, but that every person can relate to.
Well, that's a really good question because I think Ivanka is a compilation of all the people that I saw growing up in Oakburn, Manitoba, and the surrounding area in the late 1950s when I was a child. I was born in 1957 in Oakburn, Manitoba, and all of my relatives looked and sounded like Ivanka. Down to the floral dress, I remember all of my aunts wearing these floral dresses. And I remember hearing things as a child that I would put in the memory bank thinking, that is so funny. Someday I'm going to use this somewhere. And one of the first things I remember hearing was my aunt, who came to visit us, and she said, "Oh, there was such a bad accident on the highway. It was so bad they had to get the jaws of death to get them out there." The jaws of death. Wow, I'm so glad I wasn't in that car.
Wow.
And my Uncle Paul, he is not with us anymore, so I can talk about this a little bit more freely, but my Uncle Paul was Ivanka, like truly. He would do and say what I thought were the funniest things. So my Christmas show starts with Marusha up a ladder hanging pine cones in big scallops from the ceiling. That came directly from Uncle Paul. So in a Ukrainian household, on Ukrainian Christmas Eve, there's a 12-course meatless meal. Mm-hmm. And my aunt would always have this at her house. So we all arrived for this meal, and my Uncle Paul brings us downstairs into the basement where the food was going to be served, and we're going to have drinks down there before dinner. And he had laboriously picked up from his yard all the pine cones that had fallen, and he had taken the pine cones end to end, made a hole, and put fishing line through it, and they were like the millions scalloped, and he put them on his ceiling, scalloped these pine cones, and he brought us downstairs, and with a great flourish, he said, "Look at my nuts!" How do you leave that alone, right?
No.
So he calls them his nuts. So we all get over that one. Half an hour later, my aunt is now putting the food on the table. Now, when these pine cones dry, the seeds fall out and they cascade gently onto the ground, and that's how we get more pine trees. Well, she's putting the food on the table, and these little seeds are falling down from the ceiling. She says, it's like it was yesterday, she says, Paul, get your nuts off the table."
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
I can't leave this alone, right? Like, this is forever.
That's a play right there.
I know. It's forever emblazoned in my head. So when I wrote my Christmas show, Ivanka's Perfect Christmas, the first scene is Marusha up there hanging her nuts, and we see her hanging her nuts, very busy, and Ivanka trying to get in the door with all the Christmas groceries. That's how that show starts.
Oh, wow.
So that character has come from people, life situations, things that people have said to me, and they continue to say things that I continue to incorporate into my plays. So I'm just writing another one right now. Can I talk about that now?
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
do you have something else? No.
Well, I was just going to ask about, in terms of just even people who attend, that everybody is relatable just because, Canadians are, for the most part, immigrants, that they have a background of their grandparents or parents or whatever that come, and English is a second language. Things are backwards. They call things different names. They had to be resourceful. So what I love is people come and they bring their Ukrainian Tupperware, and they bring the, margarine tubs and stuff like that to bring a pierogi home or whatever the case is. And so sometimes that's one of my favorite parts, is just hearing people's stories and just how much they relate to you. And when they go to your shows, how excited they are and how much they remind them of their mother, their grandmother, their aunts, people
even
in
Irish
their family.
people, Scottish people,
Yes,
like
Italian.
It's not just Ukrainian people. It's like all people
Yes.
have someone. They say, "Oh, you remind me so much of my aunt. She used to wear knee-high pantyhose with rubber rings around to hold them up."
Yes.
So I have a lot of people that tell me that that character reminds them of some relative that they have.
Absolutely. So yes, you're still writing today, which is absolutely amazing, and we're so thankful and grateful for that, because I just absolutely love, seeing your shows and watching them happen and seeing you on that stage. And so let's talk about what was your kind of the reason for this next production that's coming up. And
well, when I've done all my shows at Magnus Theatre, and Mario Crudo was the artistic director, as many of you know, for over 25 years, and he has produced every single thing that I've ever done. So he knows my character intimately. And when he stepped down from his role as artistic director, we had talked, we've joked throughout the years, let's open a pierogi truck and we'll go to the Heimers Fair and sell pierogi. We've always had this joke. And so when he stepped down, I had this thought of working with him as a co-writer to write something. So I approached him. I said, want to write something? And he said, sure. So we started formulating ideas. And this actually started about well over a year ago. We just started brainstorming ideas. And I have a little book that I write all my ideas down. So we had this book and let's write something. And it wasn't until this spring, probably in about April or May, that we really buckled down. So we have written, from April till now, we're just continuing to write. We have one more scene left to write. We've written a show called Ivanka, Pasta, Salami, and a Guy Called Pasquale. And it's about Ivanka moving over the bridge and across the tracks, and she's moved to her new little house at 67 McGeorge Street, and her next door neighbor is Pasquale. So will they get along? Will sparks fly, or will she just take his salami and run? And it's a story about how they get along or don't. And it's a lot of fun. Yeah. We've tested it, we've read it to a group of about 25 people, and they really enjoyed it. Awesome. Really enjoyed it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing that play, and it's almost sold out. I'm helping Joanne with this one, so if there's any tickets left, they're at keynoteevents.ca. But I know it's a Thursday, Friday night, and a Sunday afternoon, and all the details are on there. And if you're lucky enough to get out and see Joanne, then I encourage you definitely to do that. So thanks so much, Joanne, for being on the show, for sharing your incredible story, and for being Ivanka for all of us to be able to enjoy for so many years. We truly appreciate that. Thanks. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today. Be sure to watch next week with more on One Woman.